Hello everyone, and welcome to Buenos Aires in Argentina. My name's Will and welcome to another video. Yeah, so I've been in Buenos Aires for about 4 days now. Yeah, it's such a great city, big city. I was in Montevideo before and it really feels like a lot bigger place. There's much more energy and life going on here. I did like Montevideo, don't get me wrong, but it's just a different atmosphere here. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to know the sights and the sounds and some of the museums and monuments that they have here in Buenos Aires. So I'm just grabbing a coffee in this bar called Eloisa, which is a cool place. And here in Buenos Aires, when you get a coffee, it normally comes with a croissant. And they call the croissants media lunas here, which means half moon. Yeah, so that's a nice touch from the Porteños. So Porteño is somebody from Buenos Aires. So my best piece of advice for coming to Argentina is that if you're paying by card, you have to bring some photo ID, so either your passport or a driver's license. And if you don't have photo ID, you can't use your card, so that's really important. I haven't actually been able to take money out in Argentina, so I'm paying with card for everything. And not everywhere accepts cards, so just be careful to bring your passport or your driver's license, otherwise you'll just have to pay with cash when you're in Argentina. So I'm now on the Avenida 9 de Julio, or the 9th of July Avenue. This is the main avenue that runs through the whole of the city. It's absolutely massive, it's very wide with about 5 or 6 lanes on each side. And here's the obelisk, which is a real center point for the city, a real landmark. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this avenue is busy 24 hours a day. There's a lot going on. Hello everyone and welcome to the MALBA Museum. So this is the Museum of Latin American Art in Buenos Aires, something like that. Can't quite work out what the acronym is, but anyway, this is one of the most well-known museums in the city, so I'm really excited to have a look at the artwork and the collections they've got inside. So there's a really interesting mix of paintings and sculptures by artists from all over Latin America. This painting's by Cândido Portinari from Brazil. This is called the Festival de São João. And this is an self-portrait of Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter. So she's one of the more famous artists from this museum. So this is a really interesting sculpture from a Brazilian artist called Maria Martins, and it's called The Impossible. So this is a painting by Diego Rivera, the Mexican painter, and it's called A Portrait of Ramon Gomez, and it's obviously got some influences from Cubism. So this section is dedicated to concrete abstractions, so non-figurative art or abstract art from the 30s and 40s that became popular in Buenos Aires and Montevideo. And they've got really interesting pieces on display here. So this is a painting by Fernando Botero, who's a painter from Colombia that I like a lot. And this painting's called The Widower. So this is a really interesting room of artworks. It's called Political Conceptualism, and it dates back from the 1960s. So in the West, this era was predominantly focused on pop art, so Andy Warhol and the likes of that, which critiqued the consumer society that was going on at the time. But because that wasn't going on in Latin America, the theme was different. It was much more political, about satire and revolution, and very politically motivated themes. So whilst the style was similar, the themes were different in the 1960s in Latin American art. So this is the central hall of the museum. I'm just sitting in a park outside of the MALBA Museum, so this is called La Plaza de República de Peru. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the exhibition that they had on inside the MALBA. It's a really interesting museum. The part that I enjoyed the most probably was the exhibit or the room that showed the works from the 1960s. Yeah, obviously in the West there was a lot of artwork coming from New York and about pop art and all related to consumerism and capitalism and overconsumption. But obviously that wasn't the case in Latin America because they were still relatively poor countries at the time. So the art was a lot more focused on political satire and political themes and about, you know, revolution. So they had a portrait of Che Guevara, which was very interesting. So I think the museum's attempting to give a perspective of Latin American culture, so a different perspective that we're used to from the West. So that was really fascinating. And then the other thing that I found interesting, there's this whole debate going on as to whether Brazil belongs within the term or within the area of Latin America. So this museum obviously thinks that it does because it exhibits Brazilian art alongside Peruvian and Chilean and Argentine artists. But there are a lot of people that say that Latin America is only the Spanish-speaking countries and Brazil doesn't belong in that context because it's Portuguese-speaking and has a different culture. Yeah, I think it's a really fascinating museum. It's got some really interesting artworks. And yeah, it's 280 pesos to get in, so it's not very expensive. And the architecture itself is really interesting and very nice design. So yeah, if you get the chance, definitely check out the MALBA Museum. So this is a really nice spot in the area of Recoleta in Buenos Aires, and it's got a really massive park with lots of people hanging out, and it's a really nice afternoon, so there's a lot of people making the most of the good weather. And on the other side of the road there's some interesting sculpture going on in that park. Hello everyone, I'm now in the Museo Nacional de Bellas Artes in the area of Recoleta in the center of Buenos Aires. Yeah, this is the National Art Gallery of Argentina, so I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to seeing some of the works. So this is a really interesting collection of Impressionist paintings. They've got original works here from Van Gogh, Sisley, Monet, Toulouse-Lautrec, Morisot, and over here Gauguin. So a fantastic collection in this room of Impressionist art. So this is a room of art from Argentina from the 19th century, and painters such as Ernesto Sivori. So this is a really interesting set of paintings by an Argentine painter called Cándido López. And these three paintings commemorate the Battle of Curupati, which was a battle between the Paraguayans and the Brazilians in the Paraguay War. But these were actually painted in the 1890s, so a bit after the war finished. So the war finished in 1870. But these are really interesting paintings of a historical scene. So this is another triptych of works by Cándido López commemorating the Battle of Curuzu, which took place in 1866. And again, this makes up part of the Paraguay War. And here you can see the Brazilian and the Argentine troops preparing together. So on the ground floor they had lots of paintings and artworks from the classical era, so sort of the 16th, 17th and 18th century. And on the first floor here they've got more contemporary art, so mainly art from the 20th century. And in this room they've got some works from Mark Rothko, Henry Moore and Jackson Pollock. So there's a really interesting range of artists that they've got on display here. So great to see some paintings from one of my favourite artists, Modigliani. So this room is dedicated to Argentine artists who went to Europe in the 1920s to learn painting styles from the European avant-garde painters and then created their own images. Hello everyone, I've just come out of the Museo Buenos Aires. It was a fantastic museum. I was really impressed with the works that I saw there. So on the ground floor it's classical art from the 15th, 16th, 17th century, and on the first floor it's more contemporary art, so 20th and 21st century, with a focus on Argentine art. It's got a really good breadth of work. I couldn't believe how different the works were. So considering it's a museum outside of Europe, they've got a lot of historical paintings and a lot of really old canvases, so that was really impressive to see. Particularly enjoyed the room with the Impressionist art. That was a really great collection in there. So I highly recommend this museum. It's a real good place to come and visit. I actually managed to get into the museum for free. So I've been having some troubles in Argentina generally, sort of paying for things with my card. So I haven't been able to withdraw any money here, any Argentine pesos. And in certain places they only accept certain cards. So they didn't accept my card in this place, and I didn't have Argentine pesos to pay, so the lady at the counter kindly let me in for free, which was really nice of her. So yeah, sometimes speaking Spanish can actually help you a lot in those situations. I'm fairly sure if I had just been speaking English she wouldn't have let me in. Anyway, the museum's well worth a look. I highly recommend it, and the area of Recoleta is really elegant as well. It's a very smart neighbourhood with lots of nice places to visit around here, so this is definitely a cool part of town to check out. So I'm now in the cultural centre of Recoleta, and they've got this interesting artisan market going on, and they've got a really cool park with lots of people chilling out. So lots of interesting stalls with a variety of products on sale here at the artisan market. So I'm now on the underground getting a train back to the centre of the city from here. So I'm just at the Corrientes station on the underground. I'm changing from the yellow line onto the red line to get back to my hotel. Hello everyone, I'm back at the hotel room now. I've had a really good day in Buenos Aires, getting to know the city a bit better and some of the museums and culture that they have here. I particularly enjoyed the MALBA Museum. I feel like Buenos Aires is a really important city within the Latin American world, and to have an art gallery devoted just to Latin American arts is a really strong manifestation of Latin American culture that they have here in this city. So I feel like the museum in itself is quite an important institution. So it was really interesting to visit that place and to see the works of art they've got on display there. Some of the artists like Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, Cavalcanti, there was a really great array of artists on display there, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I highly recommend that museum. The other museum, the Museo de Bellas Artes, was also very interesting and had a more of a kind of classical art gallery feel to it. So with some quite classical art from the 16th, 17th century from Europe, places like Holland and Germany, and then more contemporary art, so art from the 19th and 20th century, so things like Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, and then contemporary sort of abstract movements as well. So yeah, it's been a fantastic time in Buenos Aires. It's such a interesting city, very European feeling, as a sort of mix between Italian and Spanish culture here, which is very cool. I feel like I've only really scratched the surface, to be honest. I haven't been here long enough to really get to know the city that well, but nevertheless I've still enjoyed myself. It's been a really interesting experience. So that's been my snapshot from the capital of Argentina, Buenos Aires. A lot of the people I've met here said that it's the kind of place that you come back to all of your life, so there's obviously a real attraction, a real draw that brings people back to this amazing city. So yeah, it's been a really good experience being here. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.